Welcome to another episode of The Baptist Boys. I'm Jason Heath here with Aaron Tyner, and we're on staff here at Winchester First Baptist Church. Welcome to another podcast.
That's right.
Part 4
All right.
on membership.
Why are you doing that?
Because you told me I went too fast in the other ones.
Well,
and I had to
just a
slow
jumble
it
of
down.
noise. It's just a jumble of noise.
So I've decided
Right.
to slow down.
Okay, so yeah, we're back. Part 4, the closing part of our church membership. What is it? Is it biblical? Is there benefit? How's it organized? And kind of like we talked in the last episode, we introduced this one's going to kind of be like, okay, what do we do now? I'm a member of a church. What now? What do I do?
What should it look like?
Yeah.
Let's turn to Acts chapter 2, beginning in verse 42.
He might do this the whole time.
No, I won't. Okay. All right. So Acts chapter 2, beginning in verse 42. We read that verse a lot.
Yes.
They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. But what we don't do a lot is continue reading. So that's kind of what they devoted themselves to as a collective body.
Right.
Hey, you join a church, you're being a part of, you're wanting to live life together with fellow believers. These are the things you should devote yourself to. We should devote ourselves to as a body.
Yeah.
Apostles' teachings, fellowship, breaking bread, prayer, which we've broken that down in another podcast before.
Right.
But what that looked like for them practically, they kind of give us a hint of that, verses 43 and following.
Okay.
So picking up in verse 43, everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and signs were being performed through the apostles. Now all the believers were together and held all things in common. They sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all as any had need. Every day they devoted themselves to the meeting together in the temple and broke bread from house to house. They ate their food with joyful and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. Every day the Lord added to their number those who were being saved.
Yeah.
So they devoted themselves together to 4 basic things that we've talked about before:
Right.
apostles' teachings, prayer, breaking of bread, fellowship. So what'd that look like practically for them day to day? What's the first thing they did in verse 44?
Well, those who believed together had all things in common. So we can see that they gathered, right?
Yeah, they all gathered together.
They gathered
now,
together.
Do you know how many people that was?
On that day,
Yeah.
3,000, 4,000?
Yeah, because the previous verses, it says
it tells
there
you.
was 3,000 people added to them that day.
Yeah.
And then it talks about these things. So this is a large gathering. And that's why it says in the temple. The temple was the only place large enough for that.
Yeah.
So do we do any large gatherings of our people?
Yeah, we do. We definitely do on Sunday mornings.
At what time?
9:30.
That may be new for some of
Yeah,
you.
9 o'clock is donuts, by the way, if you get
And
a hanker
coffee.
for them, coffee.
Mhm.
9:30 is worship. Yeah, that's our corporate worship. That's when we come together out of an overflow from our weekly worship that we, as a family, as an individual, and some other places, small groups and things like that, it just carries over into that corporate meeting on Sunday mornings.
Right. And so we gather in that way. And then it says they sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all as any had need. So they were caring for one another.
Yeah.
How do you know if somebody has a need?
You know them. You have to have a relationship with them, know what they need, what's going on in their life. But that's it. You're just in communication with them. I know what's going on in so and so's life because, well, we talk with each other. We pray with each other. We pray for each other. They know my kids. I know what's going on with their kids, things like that. I might not know every intimate detail, but it's pretty close sometimes. Sometimes it's pretty close.
And I think that's where, over the years of ministry, we'll come across people who are kind of like, well, I had a need and no one helped me out. Well, the first question I'd be like, okay, what is your small group community and relationship like with the people in the church?
Yeah.
That's where you need to start. Are you living life with people in the church that would know you have a need? Because we're not going to magically know these strangers what their needs are. We're not going to magically know just acquaintances.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways they did this is they went together not only in the temple, but from house to house. And it said in verse 46, every day they devoted themselves to meeting together in the temple and broke bread from house to house. Now, 3,000 people weren't fitting in one house.
No.
So
I think that's where you get that sense of small groups, life groups, discipleship groups, things like that, where they would gather more locally. Maybe they were closer in area at this time, or maybe they had more things in a workplace in common. So like, okay, we're going to meet in this day, we're going to do this, and this is our worship, but we will always come together for corporate worship in the temple and this day as well. So it was a both and, we, yeah, of course we're going to go to church, but we're also going to meet at home. We're also going to meet here. We're also going to do this. And it might be, I know, how many discipleship groups were you in the last couple of rounds?
I don't know, 3 or 4.
3 or 4, right? I had
Mhm.
2 or 3. The first one I only had one. The next one I had 2, 3. And when I was still doing it with the youth, so I was intimately get to knowing several people in the church at one time. So it was very easy for me to know, oh, hey, so and so's going through an issue. I know what's going on. Let me just pray for them very specifically, because we're growing together, we're learning together, we're loving together, and we're serving together.
Right. And the small groups that we do at our church, opportunities, like you mentioned, we have Sunday school.
Yep.
No, those tend to be a little bit bigger than what you would think of as a small group, but
Yeah.
smaller than our worship
Right.
gathering. We break up into smaller groups. We also, as you mentioned, have
Our
discipleship
discipleship
groups where
groups.
we
Mhm.
had men, 3 or 4 or 5 men, 3 or 4 or 5 women that would gather into different groups. So that's even smaller,
Yep.
closer knit type community. We have prayer service,
Yeah.
prayer on Wednesday nights.
Yeah. Which
That's it.
we've added that Bible study at the end of that for now,
Right.
which we might cycle through some stuff every once in a while. But
Hmm.
right now, on the Wednesdays, we'll do prayer meeting. And then after that, we're going over what heaven is, biblically, what it looks like.
And so that's another type of group you can be involved in. The children's ministry,
Mm-hmm.
the adults involved in the children's ministry, there's a sense of serving together, working together that creates another type of
Correct.
small group
Yeah,
connection. And same thing with those who help out in the youth ministry.
absolutely.
Same thing with any type of ministry teams, those who serve with the food truck ministry, those who may serve in the prayer ministry, those who may serve in whatever other ministries we have going on in church. Those are other groups,
Yeah.
other small groups in which people are living life
Yep.
together. And so it's very important for us to be living life together in order to know how to encourage, build each other up, care for one another well, and be a part. And so our numbers on Sunday mornings, we have more in service than we do in Sunday school,
Yeah.
in small groups and things like that. So there is a segment of people that come to our church worship stuff, but they don't have any connection to a small group. They don't have any connections to people in the church. They're not living life with people within this particular body. Um, and a lot of times, unfortunately, those are the people that tend to come and go from the
Yeah.
church. And when
Unfortunately.
they don't have those connections, and they're often the ones that feel left out or feel distance or feel pushed out or far away. And part of that is that you need small group. You need to be living life with fellow believers. They're on the same page. And
Yeah.
there's something about gathering with the local body of believers all on the same page, working together to glorify God. And that's very important. We see that they've devoted themselves to those things. Which we talked last week about doing things decently in order and how
Yeah.
you have to plan out.
Yeah.
Well, in order to be devoted to something, you're going to have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
You're going to have to prioritize living life with fellow believers at your local church, living life together, building each other up, encouraging each other, doing ministry together. Because one, it's commanded in Scripture that we do that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for our good.
Yeah.
Um, you're gonna hit a ceiling in your spiritual development and your spiritual walk with the Lord if you're not involved in the life of the local church,
Yeah. Yeah.
intimately
I
involved,
think, and
not
that,
on the fringes, but intimately involved in people's lives, working together for the common good.
yeah, that's one cool thing that I've noticed uh, over the last probably year, yeah, probably a year or so. Uh, Going to dinner or going to eat or fellowship with specific families, going out to the Longhorns or the Beans or the Payers or the Paynes or the Morrises, whatever, whoever it is I'm going to. What I've noticed is the talk of biblical things, spiritual things has increased. The more we spend time together doing those things, the next thing you know, it's just like second nature to start talking about, well, here's what my quiet time is like nowadays. I've been going through this. What do you think about this? Or, hey, I read this interesting article. What do you think about this? And then in being built up from so many different avenues, it's just nice to where, you're learning something new almost every single time you sit down with a family, or you're walking with somebody as they're learning something new, which I think is really important as well. You know, a lot of the conversation we have at work, sometimes it carries over whenever we do things outside of the office, but it's just one of those things where that's one thing we do really enjoy talking about, because we do see that we have a lot of there might be some things that we don't exactly have in common with the people we're in church with, or the
Right,
people.
right there. We may not have a lot of things in common, but what's the?
Why you? Come on! I was gonna say it.
I just wanted to beat you to it.
We might not have a lot of things in common with the people that we're serving and worshiping with, but we do have Jesus.
Mhm.
We are his children. And that is something that should carry us through most, not all, those difficulties, struggles, arguments, disagreements that we have.
That's right. And that what binds us together
I can't
is
believe you did
not
that. I can't
our
believe that.
favorite sports teams,
Right,
not our hobbies,
right,
not our passions, not our
right.
interests, not our jobs. What binds us together as a people is our desire to love God, to know Him, to worship Him, to glorify Him with our lives. That creates a unique bond that cannot be replicated outside the church.
Yeah,
There's just that there is a uniqueness to that bond because we are family, not just some random family that we married into or we picked, an eternal family
right,
that's set for all eternity. That
right.
your relationship with fellow believers within the context of the local church should be vastly different than every other relationship you have outside of the
Right,
church. It should be noticeably different
right.
because what binds you together is noticeably different than what binds the world together in
Mhm.
those things.
Yeah,
When you go tailgating at a Tennessee football game and you're sitting in the fans, you're cheering with people, things like that.
yep,
There's something in the moment that
yeah.
binds you together.
Oh, yeah, it is.
All right. But that shouldn't compare to what binds you together when you show up here on church on
Right.
Sunday
Yeah.
mornings.
Like your brother's ambition, my brother's ambitions might be, for this life might be something completely different. Like,
Mhm.
he wants to be famous or rich or whatever it is. But I know our ambitions in this life are the same: glorify God and everything we do, share the gospel every
Mhm.
chance we get.
And you see there, Lord added to their numbers those who are being saved. It was just getting together with fellow believers who are seeking to love the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
But the issue I think that people have and they miss sometimes is like unbelievers who come to your church are not going to feel a part of that. They're going to feel like they're on the outside.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do sometimes.
They should. Because they're not if they're not believers, they shouldn't feel like they fit in there. They should feel like, wow, these people are different.
Yeah.
Not that we're unfriendly or that but like they should be like, look, they have something I don't have.
Right.
That's what should make them feel
Great
like,
clarification.
wait, right. Wait a minute. These people are different. They have a passion, they have a heart connection, they have a love for one another that I don't see anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge for our church. Is Jesus said, people will know that you're my disciples by your love for one another.
Mm-hmm.
And what is love? Love is being patient. Love is being kind. It's being gentle. And we did a whole podcast on what is love. Encourage you to go back and listen.
Yeah.
We go into that in a lot more
Yep.
detail. How love, it never fails and endures, all those things. But our love for God and our love for one another should separate us from every other charity group, work environment, sports group, whatever. We should be vastly different. And that vast difference is how well we love God and how well we love one
Mm-hmm.
another. So you come and join in with a church. Okay, what's next? You start living life with people, loving God
Yeah.
and loving one another.
Right.
That's the glue that holds all of us together is love.
Yeah.
That's what binds us together. A love for God, a love for one another. Should be a noticeable difference.
Yep. I agree.
Unfortunately, a lot of times
It's not.
you don't notice the difference. And
Mm.
that's on us as a local church. We should be patient with one another. We should be so kind to one another that when people walk in, they're like, okay, these guys, this is different than any other place I've ever been. I've never, I've never seen people love each other like this. I've never seen people be kind to each other like this. I've never seen people be gentle like this. I have never seen a group of people so committed to one another as I have when I walked into that church.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to devote ourselves to that.
Yeah.
Just like the earlier, they devoted themselves to that purpose as a people. And so we have to devote ourselves as a people to doing that, loving like no one else loves.
Yeah, and that's kind of like you said with that episode that we had with what is love, and I think we talked in that about how we can lovingly, very lovingly disagree,
Mm-hmm.
very lovingly agree,
Yep.
but also very lovingly be upset with each other too. But we need to acknowledge each other in that same manner as a local congregation that we are sons and daughters of Christ
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, and we deserve and should be presenting any problem, any issues to that person with that in their mind, that they are and will always belong to God first.
Right. And so some of the killers to this, to us seeking to do this together, is going to be gossip,
Yeah,
slander,
right.
unwillingness to forgive,
Mm-hmm.
selfishness, pride, arrogance, all those type of things, the things that are anti-fruit of the spirit,
Correct. Yeah.
are going to be the hiccups
Yeah.
that churches have to overcome. And are we going to be a perfect people?
Nope.
No. But that's where we have been given the ministry of
That's
reconciliation
right.
and forgiveness. And that's what we should be modeling that for the world.
Yeah.
What it looks like to humble ourselves, to be reconciled, to work together, loving God, loving one another. Again, the whole point is, as a church, we should look very different. When unbelievers walk in here, they should be like, these people are unlike any other people I've ever met outside of this place.
Very, very much. It should look a lot like Romans 12:1 and 2. What tells us: do not conformed, looking different, honorable sacrifice to the Lord.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. So that's kind of the series. That's it.
Yep. On membership.
There's not much else. If you're a member of our church, we just wanted to say that's where we are with it. That's what we feel about it. That's how we've come. And that's how we structure it the way we do. If you're looking to be a member of a church, maybe you can use this to view that church you're looking at with a lens of information. So you can say, okay, are we doing things organized, right? Are we living life together? Are they loving? Are they loving God? Are they servicing God in every way they can? Do they have options? Are we prioritizing our relationships and service to God over everything else? And do they look like a church, or do they look just like a world?
Right. And something for you personally to take home that I need to take, Aaron needs to take, you need to take, that you're listening. Am I contributing
Yeah,
to the health of a particular local body of believers?
that's right.
Am I devoting myself to the right things to make sure that the local body of believers is healthy, thriving, and being built up?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you the problem?
Yeah. There
So
go.
you need to evaluate that, devote yourselves to the right things, which apostles' teachings, fellowship, breaking the bread, prayer, those are good things to start with. Again, go to Acts 2,
Right.
42 through 47.
Yeah.
Look through that, meditate on that. And until next time, I'm Jason,
I'm Aaron.
and we are
The Baptist Boys.
Baptist Boys. Baptist Boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Baptist